Hello BookTube, it's Becky from Becky Writes, this is Becky Reads, and this is my spoiler-free review of This Savage Song by Victoria Schwab. This Savage Song is the first part in a YA duology that takes place in a future America after some kind of crazy event called The Phenomenon happens, in which every time there is an act of violence, that violence causes a monster to be born, or created, or come into being. In this world, there are three kinds of monsters: the Corsai, who kind of look like monsters and eat human flesh like monsters, and are born from sort of minor, non-lethal violence. The second kind of monsters are the Malachi, and they look like we would think of vampires. Skeletal, they suck out human blood, and they are born from murderous acts. The final kind of monsters are the Sunai. They are born from complete catastrophes of human violence, and they steal human souls through music. In the world of V City, which is the capital of Verity, Kate Harker and August Flynn find themselves on opposite sides of a conflict and yet are drawn together into a friendship. Kate Harker is the human girl who is the daughter of Callum Harker, who's kind of like an overlord of the northern half of V City. She wants to inherit her father's empire, basically, and she believes that the only way to do that is to become as hard and tough as nails as her father. So in a lot of ways, she is struggling to lose the things that make her human, to lose her sensitivity and her vulnerability and a lot of her kindness. On the other hand, you have August Flynn. He is a monster, and he has been adopted by the Flynn family in the south side of V City. The Flynns run an organization that fight monsters and in some ways fight against Callum Harker. August is sent to the boarding school where Kate is in order to keep an eye on her, and in the midst of some crazy events, the two of them draw together and become friends. This Savage Song is about friendship and not romance, which is a refreshing read as far as YA literature is concerned, and it deals with some really interesting issues. The one that I liked the most is the fact that Kate is constantly questioning people's belief about safety. In the north half of the city run by her father, people can buy their safety, and the reason why it can be as safe and picturesque as it is that her father works alongside the monsters. And there is something about that she recognizes as inherently unsafe and inherently bad, and yet she wants to inherit that title. That conflict is a part of Kate's journey in this book, but it's also a larger commentary on what is really safe, and is the world as safe as we think it is, or is it something that we buy into in order to not see how unsafe we really are? That kind of layering in detail is what This Savage Song does really, really well. It is definitely a commentary on violence and the state of violence in our world today, but it's also a commentary on us and on whether or not we see how unsafe we are and how inherently violent things are, and how it's so easy to turn a blind eye to the fact that things are unsafe for all kinds of people. I think that this is an interesting and apropos story of two people who live in an inherently violent world, who are from what look like opposite communities and yet are thrown together in the midst of a lot of violence. They both want to prevent needless violence, but are both used as tools by others to create and instigate violence. Now, I really enjoyed this, even though some of the feedback that I got from Caitlin, who was reading this in a buddy read with me, was that it was kind of slow. I didn't find it that way, but I wasn't comparing this to any of V.E. Schwab's other books. I haven't read A Darker Shade of Magic or any of those series. I haven't read any of her earlier YA books. So I wasn't comparing this to the pace of those other novels. I will say that there are parts in this that, because she is refusing to info dump, she's sort of slowly giving us details about this world, but I just got frustrated. I mean, I'm not going to lie to you. There's a part of me that was like, just write me an info dump paragraph so I know the relevant information and we can move on. I found it challenging to constantly sit there and try to piece things together, because figuring out the background of how the monsters came to be and how Verity came to have this problem to begin with was frustrating when you were trying to concentrate on the main plot that, like, was only in existence because of this background that she wasn't giving to us directly, she was sort of seeding through. And I would have written it differently, and I know you're not supposed to info dump, but honestly, this would have been served well by like one well-placed conversation that just gave you the basic outline so we could move on. Aside from that, my only other criticism is that there's a pivotal scene towards the end. I'm not going to tell you what it is because no spoilers, but I do think that it was raced through rather quickly. It had a lot to do with building August and Kate's friendship and trust. It had a lot to do with Kate putting some closure around her relationship with her father, and I think it could have used more time. Overall, this book is just a little bit too long for me, so I don't know where she would have cut other pieces in order to make more time for that, but I would have liked to have seen a little bit more, just a little bit more there. Like I said though, I really did enjoy this. I gave it 4 out of 5 stars. If you're looking for something that's going to be a good October read, something that will be good for Halloween, but if you have anxiety like me and you don't want to be totally triggered, I think that this will be a good book. I didn't feel anxious reading this. I felt like it was the perfect amount of creepy and violent to feel kind of like a spooky read without being terrified. Like, this is not horror. And I think it also speaks to a lot of our contemporary issues by talking about violence in a broad sense that is then in a really particular way embodied in the monstrous characters. If you've read this book, please tweet at me because I would love to talk about the ending. You can find me at Brecky Writes on Twitter. Comment down below and let me know if you've read The Savage Song and what you thought of it, or if you think you might pick it up. Like I said, I really enjoyed this. 4 out of 5 stars isn't bad, and I am now particularly looking forward to the sequel of this and picking up V.E. Schwab's other books. Hope you guys are doing well, and I will talk to you very soon. Bye!